Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and to every nook and cranny receiving signals from our 100,000 watt transmitters going right into those magical boxes known as radios, aka the Howard Reynolds machine. Anyway, good morning to our audience throughout the world who reaches us through the magic of the internet created by we the people, but now under the parasitic control of many billionaires who think that they can always take the resources of production, the resources of intellect away from those who actually create it to those who just simply have the capital to monopolize it. Anyway, folks, without further ado, let's go to the geniuses in the studio.
Good morning, Egberto. It is Wednesday morning at the radio, December the 18th on KPFT Houston. And the billionaires don't think they can take the stuff. They do take the stuff.
Yes.
So there you go. And now we have a billionaire president-elect, a billionaire Department of Government Efficiency, and let's see, what else do we have? Billionaire this, that, and the other. They've taken over our government, and they are so out of touch with reality, the way the rest of us have to live, the way most of us have to live, paycheck to paycheck for some of us. I think I'm one paycheck ahead, but that's not very much. So we have a billionaire takeover of the government. What do you think is going to happen? What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? What could go wrong?
And Jack has a whole, it's a 3/4 page of wisdom this morning. So instead of my rant, I think we should hear something that makes sense.
Okay. How do we make sense of this? Well, good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Buenos dias, my brother. Talk to me.
All right. I read your post this morning, and one line stood out for me really well. The corporate CEOs are aligning themselves with Trump, highlighting their greed and willingness to undermine democracy for profit. Man, that is a statement right there. Okay,
that is a huge statement.
Now, mine's going to follow like this. Media continues to fail to fact-check Trump in real time. Trump files suit against the media to intimidate journalists. Corporate CEOs are aligning themselves with Trump, highlighting their greed and willingness to undermine democracy for profit. I want to point out that it was and is democracy that allowed the corporation the stability and the foundation for the corporate to grow to the point that some are wealthier than the state now. That's the big problem. They've just become so wealthy. They're wealthier than government, and that's why they took it over. The corporate ego has turned on the citizens and means to rule. The corporate hides behind government like a shield as they pollute and rip off the people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think I got it in a nutshell there.
Pretty much there.
Well, brother, I think to put it in a nutshell, I think you nailed it. But Jacques, you always nail it. Yeah. So, what's new there? Anyway, folks, let me just tell you, I started for 2025. You have to kind of experiment with things before you go really outright with it. Well, I got this new product that allows me to, not new products, new addition to the product that allows me to do some streaming, some better runs on my stream. So now we are also letting you know, we're also streaming live on Substack. We're also streaming live on Twitter. We've been streaming live on Twitter. We're also streaming live
on Instagram, and we're also streaming live on that product that's mostly used internationally called Telegram. So know that, folks, whenever you get on the phone and you start making your comments, you have that much larger of a voice. Anyhow, we have a great program for you today. We have the titles called Trump Goes After Pollster, Major USPS Changes Already Being Tested, and GOP Wants to Kill IRS Free File. After Trump takes office, the GOP wants to end the IRS e-filing program immediately. USPS destruction tests are already in effect. Remember, we covered the USPS, I think it was yesterday, as being the most efficient delivery service. This year, they claim they will have a $9.5 billion deficit, but they don't tell you all the machinations that went into these deficits that have occurred over the last several years. And of course, that was what would I call a sabotage by our government onto the USPS force. So, they're bringing excuses as, they're not doing packages as they should, et cetera, et cetera. No, folks. First of all, the USPS is not a for-profit entity. So therefore, your post office is not supposed to make a profit. But what they want it to be is self-sustaining, which means the government is huge, and this one agency in the government, they want to make sure that how whatever is delivered, its total expenditures to deliver mail and packages equal to the total amount it costs to run the service, meaning to pay the employees, etc. But the Postal Service is a constitutional entity, and in reality, we shouldn't be thinking about the Postal Service always being, in the black, if you will, because again, it's a service, and if the tax dollars every so often has to go in to make sure that the amount of money it costs you to mail something to Alaska is the same amount of money it costs you to mail something across the street, then what's the problem? People fly, a lot of people fly, and some don't, but we all pay for the FAA. Think about that. Some people fly, some people will never fly, but we all pay for the FAA. Same goes with roads. Some people use the interstate, some people will never use it. But guess what? We all pay for it. Whoa, did I read that right? Did I get a piece of mail that just said Steve Harvey passed away? Is that true? I can't. Whoa, that would be interesting. That just touched me, folks. I just got a text that says Steve Harvey passed away, but I shouldn't even have said that out loud without fact checking. I should not have said that out loud. That must have been a bad. Hey guys, forget that I said that. I have no idea that something just came over my mail that said that. Forget that I said that. I'm on air, Egberto. I'm on air. Anyway, let's go ahead and start the program with the end direct file on day one, say House Republicans. As you know, I don't know how you do your taxes, but I have this Willies Media, and of course the software company that that's pretty much was placed in hiatus when I started doing activist journalism, and of course my personal taxes. And every year it costs me quite a few dollars to go ahead and get TurboTax. That's what I use. But there are several other programs that people use for to do their taxes. Well, it costs money. And I always wondered, why should it cost money? Why should it cost money okay, let me just say that before I get into the program, I am so sorry I did what I just did. it was just a shocker. I just got a thing that came across my mail that spoke about Steve Harvey. And luckily, our geniuses in the studio says, no, Egberto, Steve Harvey is just fine. But I must watch when I get these texts not to just blurt it out. It was just a shock to me, and I blurted it out, something I shouldn't have done. So my biggest apologies to those folks out there. I always fact check. Egberto, ¿qué te pasa? Anyway, so as I said, I do my own taxes, etc. And I get these programs to do it, and these programs cost money. Some people can't even use these programs that they pay for. They may actually go get a consultant to help them do their taxes. So given that the government is the one who analyzes based what type of income you have, etc., whether you need to pay taxes on it, you would think that the government will have the program that they should give you to tell you how much taxes you owe them. So it's a logical thing. And it's something that shouldn't cost money. It's something that the billionaires, right, Jack? Something the billionaires shouldn't be making money off of. I make money off of you paying your taxes. I always thought that was crazy. A company sprouts up and builds a product, charge you for that product, purportedly to make your life easier to file taxes. And the government saw that was a problem as well. So they decided to create a program, a free program for people who needed to file their taxes. Very logical. Nothing controversial about that. You think? Well, of course, the billionaires got to the Republicans, and the Republicans said, indirect file on day one, says House Republicans. In other words, they want to tell all of the people who don't use TurboTax, because again, either they can't afford it, or they just want to file their taxes. They say the billionaires told their slaves in Congress, hey guys, we want to continue making money off the backs of the American people. Stop giving them that program that allows them to file their taxes for free. They need to pay the corporations to file their taxes. We need to make money on them filing their taxes. They want to make a piece of they want to turn every service into something that they can make a buck on. So on day one, the House Republicans, here's what it says at Reuters. Representative Adrian Smith. Sorry, I got into a cough thing here. Representative Adrian's. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know what got over me. Representative Adrian Smith, joined by 27 Houston Republicans, urged President-elect Donald Trump to immediately end the IRS free e-file program.
Oh, goodness. Are you a little choked up about this story there, Egberto? I can certainly understand. Man, I would choke somebody else. I wouldn't be choking myself. So anyway, to fact check, we went ahead and fact checked that Steve Harvey is still alive and well. There is nothing wrong with Steve Harvey, and we're getting some calls ready for you as soon as you can clear your throat and get things going on. Might just check on the Reuters story here, and I may do that myself.
Okay, I think I'm back.
Okay now? Okay.
I am back, but I don't know what got over me. It's still not completely clear. I know.
More billionaires saying, "Oh, we you better end that free program for the people who are paying their taxes." I mean, that would choke me up too, but I would be more likely to choke somebody else, not myself.
Right. It shouldn't be choking me up, right? But anyhow, it turns out that this is what they said. In a December 10 letter, the lawmakers contend that direct file which was piloted in 12 states during the last filing session, presents a conflict of interest for the IRS. I mean, the things that these guys come up with. The IRS collects your taxes. In order for you to file your taxes, it's a complicated process because how many deductions you have, all that good stuff, right? So the IRS makes it simple by creating a program to make it simple, just like TurboTax thought to create a program to make it simple. Now they're saying it's a conflict of interest by the government for the government to tell you how much you owe. I mean, if it's laughable. It is completely laughable. And that they want now to tell, in effect, and this is where Democrats a lot of times fail, okay? Here we have Republicans telling Trump, as soon as he gets into office, to cut the program that allows the IRS to give filers a program to make their taxes easier to file. In other words, the Republicans are saying, let's apply a tax. Let's apply a tax to the American people to pay their taxes. Because when they could do it for free, because again, it's the government collecting your taxes, the Republicans are now saying, no, let them pay to file. Let these corporations that make a bunch of money on each one of you tax filers, let them continue to make the money. I mean, can you see this, folks? Can you understand what's happening here? This has nothing to do with conflict of interest. Nothing to do with conflict of interest. It has everything to do with them telling you that you have to pay to get your complicated taxes done. And now the DOGE, which stands for Department of Government Efficiency, they want to look that up as, hey, that's an expense we can cut from the government. In other words, no, they're not cutting that expense from the government. They're taxing you. So I have a message for Democrats. If the papers were turned, by now, there would be ads on air. The Republicans would be running ads on air right now, telling you that the government is taxing you to pay your taxes. And you know what I hear from Democrats? Crickets. Do you want to know why failed policy? Why the party with failed policies win? Because you don't have folks out there informing Americans of the predatory nature of the Republican Party and those who support the Republican Party. So people who are in fact Republicans don't realize that their own party is screwing them. Can you see that? Again, the government gives you the free the website so that you can file your taxes free of charge on the website, but they don't want that. They want TurboTax and all these other software companies that sells you something to file your taxes to make it easier. But I have something for them. Here's what they say. It's less efficient. Well, they forget that for TurboTax to automatically file your taxes, they have to have a gateway to the government computers. You know, when you use TurboTax and it says, are you ready to file? And you say yes, it calls up the government computer, transmit all that information to the government computer, and then the government goes ahead, hits computer, fact checks that stuff from TurboTax, and then says, okay, TurboTax, we accept that filing. Here's what TurboTax is telling you. TurboTax is saying it is okay for the government to spend money to create a software interface to work with TurboTax and all these other platforms, instead of saying we don't need to create that gateway. We just have to present it to the people who are the ones actually paying the taxes. We don't need a middle person. We don't need a middleman. We don't need a middle woman. We can actually go directly to the taxpayer and say, taxpayer, fill out these forms to pay your taxes. It is amazing. It is amazing the thievery sanctioned by our Republican legislature. What are the thievery attempted by our Republican legislature, congressional house? But it is amazing because when I talk about that party having the proclivity to screw its own, again, they are taxing both Republicans and Democrats when they go ahead and say, kill the program and let TurboTax make a whole bunch of money on you, right? So here we go. The second story that I had today, going to show you how corrupt these guys are. The second story is the USPS challenges already being tested. And in this article at the Daily Kos, what is really happening is in order to make the postal service more, in their terms, efficient, what they mean is make a profit. They want to go to the least profitable areas of the postal service. Okay, folks, you remember when you saw the election and you saw the map? The map looked very red. The map didn't look very red because most people are Republicans. That's not why the map looked very red. The map looked very red because in those red areas, in most of those areas, only a little bit of people live there. So you have if County A looks red, the reality is there are few people in County A. Then you have a little county called Harris County, and it's blue, surrounded by red. In that little Harris County, there are a lot more people than just everything around it. Okay? So what you have is the Republican voter in the aggregate. They're scattered all over the country in small areas. But here's the kicker. The Postal Service charges the same amount to send a letter to Timbuktu, Yoakum, Texas, or next door to Houston, Texas. All right? Same amount of money. So in other words, those of us who live in Houston, Texas, are subsidizing the letters that go to Yoakum, Texas, because it's very small in Yoakum, Texas, and I'm just using Yoakum as an example. It's very small, and, having a complete mail-in program, the truck going out, burning gas, all of that, to service a small amount of people, is inherently inefficient. That is inherently inefficient, but we do it. Why? One, the Constitution says we should. But secondly, because, again, we want our country to be connected. We want our country to be connected. So we make sure that everybody pays the same amount to send a letter to keep us connected. Of course, we use the internet now, but you get the drift. What does DeJoy and the corrupt folks want to do? All those little post offices in those little towns, they either want to close them or they want to make sure that they don't have to get deliveries every day. Or one of these things. In all these rural areas that we're again, it's inefficient to deliver mail. They want to do something about it. But I want to recall something else that we spoke about yesterday. Whereas UPS already doesn't go to these rural areas,
FedEx already doesn't go to those rural areas. The United States Postal Service does. And guess who uses the United States Postal Service to deliver their mail to the rural areas, to deliver their packages to the rural areas? The good old post office. That good old post office that people think they should hate because a lot of folks are telling you to hate them. No, no, no. Even UPS uses the United States Post Office to deliver their last few miles on packages in Timbuktu, America. And now they want now DOGE, Department of, it's not really a department, but of efficiency or whatever the hell they call it. Now they are talking about, hey, now we can cut down the United States Postal Service, get rid of those rural areas. So folks, the people who vote for these people are the ones that they're going to screw themselves. You voted rural America. You voted for people who are talking about, guess what? Making sure your deliveries are not on time, making sure you don't get deliveries every day. So they're taking services away from you. You voted them in. People you didn't care about voting for. They're fighting like hell right now to try to make sure all of you get your mail on time, to make sure you get your services. But the people you voted for look at you and say, it's not efficient to deliver to you. Telephone number 713-526-5738. Let's go ahead and speak to Sister Moses. Moses, come on in.
Buenos días, mijito.
Buenos días, amiga.
¿Cómo está?
Muy bien, muy bien. Habla conmigo, por favor.
Okay. Now, what I see is very short. The advance of Alibaba and his 40 thieves. They are at the door of the cave saying, open sesame, open sesame. And when sesame opens, the eyes of the people now are beginning to understand what it is they did to themselves. And I don't think Americans, when they begin to feel the movement of Alibaba and his 40 thieves in their lives, I don't think they will take it as easily as they took it during the general election. So let us see what happens when the cave opens. That's all I've got to say.
We know, Moses, it's great that you said that, right? But I sit down. I just mentioned. By the way, welcome Egolf Twittler in the chat, Eric Hayes in the chat, Gayla Kunis in the chat, Palsy Walsey in the chat. Welcome aboard. I wanted. There are two kinds of mentalities, right? There are those who, as they're informed and point out what's being done to them, they listen and they accept it. And then there are those who simply try to give a reason why what these guys are doing to hurt people is still okay. We have one person in the chat, Eric Hayes in the chat right now saying, hey, but Doge is why knock Doge? That's trying to be efficient, right? I just gave an example of why, of rural areas getting screwed by the party who they voted for. And that went right over his head. Anyway, go ahead, Moses.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this quickly. Well, I'll tell you something. When I'm going to go to an old biblical story, not too long. When Noah was inside of the ark, God did not give him the keys. You know why? Because when he looked out the window and he saw all those hard-headed people floating by, he would not open the door in compassion and let them in. So you always have the result. When those hard-headed people come out here, They are the ones you see floating in the water, upside down. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, sis. You have a good one, Moses. All right, let's go to Senor Patrick. Come on in, Patrick.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, my friend. Talk to me.
Well, not only are all the people voting in the rural areas to get rid of the post office, they also voted to subsidize private education for the rich, and they voted to keep public schools. They've done themselves all sorts of damage. But what I'd like to point out, and everybody seems to always be focused on profit, and that's what capitalism does to us. People need these services. Not only that, is my understanding when I was taught a long time ago that the U.S. Postal Service is a subsidy for small businesses to communicate their goods. So to vote against that, you're voting against small businesses. That's how franchises get their coupons out. That's how people talk about sales. Everybody wants to say that email does that. I don't ever open any of those, but I see every coupon that comes through my mailbox. It wasn't intended for profit. Not everything needs to be for profit. And all the for-profit businesses that try and start up are going to suffer if they don't have a USPS.
You know, it is amazing, right? I remember when one of the first times they were talking about, getting rid of the USPS and making it private. In other words, FedEx, UPS, etc. FedEx came out with a letter. You know how much it costs to ship a FedEx letter? $5.
I think. $5. I think it was a few dollars, but I believe $5. Absolutely, that their system isn't built for it.
No.
And if they do have to respond to it, there's going to be a terrible lag time. And if the lag time's long enough, and they just decide we're going to get used to it, like we got used to all the downgraded services after COVID, they're just not ever going to give it to us. Then people in the rural areas are just going to have to drive to a post office like they did 150 years ago. Does that sound like progress?
And again, that is the whole idea, right? Guess what? People look at it like, okay, well, they have to drive to do this now. Well, now a piece of mail costs you, if the new post office is 20 miles away, it may cost you a gallon of gas to go to the post office. So that piece of mail doesn't cost 70 cents or whatever it costs to mail anymore. It costs 70 cents plus the $4 in gas that you're going to spend. I mean, it is amazing how people vote against it. But what a lot of these Republican politicians are good at is in hiding what they actually cost you. They make it seem like the others are the ones spending, when what they're doing is offsetting the prices to you. If you take a look at the reason I brought this story in second, because it tied right into the first story about when they're trying to eliminate the free filing of your taxes, right? When they come and they say it's a conflict of interest for the United States IRS to somehow charge. It's a conflict to give you free service. It's a conflict of interest. Makes no sense. But they say it with a straight face. They're the ones charging. If they're the ones that you're paying, they should tell you how to pay, right? And that is what that program is for. But now they want TurboTax to charge you to then go ahead and file. It's so ridiculous.
Now, I wanted to switch tracks, and I'm almost done. But yesterday, Brian called in and chastised you and chastised one of the listeners for having some understanding of Luigi. I tread lightly here, but I want to point out that Brian was besides himself lecturing us yesterday. But 8 months ago, Brian called in and he said that the tens of thousands of Palestinian women and children got what they deserved because of what their father and husband voted for. So I don't understand how a Palestinian that hasn't done anything to me deserves to die. but a CEO that is denying care and letting people suffer and die is in the right. So I'd
That
like
is
you to
called,
ask Brian.
you know, that is how indoctrinated we are, right? And it comes with what lives we value, and also what we think is right. The truth of the matter is, I tread carefully. I tread carefully with the topic you just talked about with because I don't want anybody to misconstrue my words. But the reality is, while even if you take a listen to the press conference that the DA gave yesterday about Mangione, which was correct. In other words, he killed somebody. Okay, even if he wanted to be a martyr, you know, we have laws, and the laws will be followed. Of course, we know when it gets in front of a jury can make whatever decisions that they make. But the thing that always bothers me is how the media comes down on the average American citizen that kills, right? They come down on the petty thief that goes into the 7-Eleven and steal a cigarette or steal a can of soup or whatever. They really make that look like a crime. That looks like, well, it is a crime. You know, they do that. I don't want anybody robbing my store. But when the corporations do that, you know, the corporations find many ways to rip you off. How many wages of Americans are corporations ripping off? That's thievery. How many times are corporations overcharging you for items? That's thievery. How many times corporations get people killed? How about Boeing? When Boeing knowingly had a problem with the MAX 8, and they knowingly allowed that plane to fly in that state. Knowingly. That was sacrificing people's lives, saying, well, you know, it's cheaper for us to get sued than to fix the problem, in their opinion. But it's not treated like that. Go ahead.
Just that stock market's more important than safety. I didn't mean to interrupt you. This is also, you need to realize that a species that used to stand in line to watch people get fed to lions for no good reason. We like that for whatever is going on. And if we can't change it, we need to identify it. We need to understand what we're doing. That this kid doesn't need to be a spectacle. Nobody else does either.
Right. Exactly. So let's look about that. But I am trying to frame the message for people right now that are out there, and not to give, just like the system is not going to give Mangione a pass for killing that CEO. I want those of you to look seriously at what these corporations and these CEOs are doing to the average American citizen, what pain, harm, and death they're causing them, unnecessarily but knowingly. It's important. Thank you very much, Patrick.
Have a great day. Thank you.
You too, brother. All right, let's go to Eddie. Come on in, Eddie.
I want to be a little bit off, maybe a lot off topic, but I want to just see if I understand your stance on Trump being guilty for the insurrection.
Okay, go ahead. Sure.
So I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you believe that he's guilty because he convinced his supporters that the election was stolen, and he convinced them that they had to march on the Capitol to stop the steal, and he convinced them that they were in fact fighting for democracy when they were actually destroying democracy, and he's guilty because of that.
It's much deeper than that. That is just superficial. Okay. And this is what a whole lot of people don't understand. Would you like me to answer? That's what a lot of people don't understand. Donald Trump and his minions, this is a conspiracy. Okay. And a conspiracy is very well laid out in all the research that was done. Unfortunately, the media, while you can read it on your own, the media doesn't cover it as it should. But from the Proud Boys and all these other institutions that a lot of Trump's sidekicks have been priming and planning. I mean, there was a big planning session in the hotel before the meeting occurred. So we actually have a meeting where this insurrection was being directed from it. And that is all documented, and that came out in the hearing. So if you would like yourself to go listen to the hearings or should read the paperwork from the hearings, you will see what the conspiracy looked like. But continue, my friend.
Okay. Well, I mean, I appreciate you saying it's very superficial, because my worry was that when you say this CEO is responsible for killing hundreds and thousands of people for denying care and basically committing murder, I'm fearful that you are going to be guilty when the next CEO gets murdered because somebody listening to your show. And
I'm glad you said that. I am glad you said that. You are so correct. Let me tell you something, okay? I feel being a host, right? Being a host of a program on air that many people listen to, I am very cognizant of what I do. I don't know if you started listening to the show in the beginning, but in the beginning of the show today, as I was talking, I have the feed that goes across my thing, and it said that a particular star had died. And it was so shocking to me because I see the star all the times. I blurted it out and I said, "Oh, can't believe that." And not realizing immediately I was on air. And as soon as I caught myself, I corrected what I said. Right. And, hopefully that nobody got it and, goes into a panic or whatever. So I am very responsible with the privilege that I have to be on air speaking to the thousands and the people that I speak to. So I am cognizant of that. Now, repeating a fact, however, one cannot be accused of let's say the next person that takes out a CEO. All right. Everything that I've stated is a fact. CEOs and of these insurance companies effect a policy that gets thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans dead every year. Do you accept that as a statement of fact?
So he's implementing.
No, that's what I asked you, sir. I asked you, do you accept as a statement of fact that insurance companies with their policies get people killed?
Like you said with the insurrection, I think that's oversimplifying a very complicated question.
No, it's not complete. Let me ask you this: if somebody has cancer of a certain type that a particular drug will solve, and you take it to the insurance company and they said no, is that result from that insurance company affecting the death of that person? Yes or no?
In that case, yes.
And that's my point.
If we blame him for that, do we give him credit then for the thousands and thousands of lives he did save because his company provided?
No, we don't, because that is what we're paying for, sir. We are not giving them credit for something that they're paid to do. They are paid to do that.
If his policies affect the death and he's to blame for that, then other policies that affect other deaths that were implemented by other people would be to blame. So Joe Biden is responsible for the deaths of Americans killed by illegal immigrants. If one is true, the other has to be true.
There is a very huge difference. Okay, no, there's a huge difference. There's a very big difference. There's a big, and if you want me to tell you what the difference is, it's simple. It is simple that Biden didn't control the people coming into the country. The insurance company controlled their denial. It's a difference. I mean, I know people would like to create a congruent relationship. It's not. It is not. Because, I mean, it is not.
And it's an oversimplification of both. Because as a CEO of healthcare, and I'm not going to say that it's not flawed, it's not seriously damaging. I don't want to argue that, but I want to open eyes to say, like, if they just accept everybody's care, Can I go to the doctor? I don't know if can I go and get years of therapy for a broken foot that's healed, completely healed. I just like going to therapy.
No, that's not that. No, you don't want that. Again, and a doctor who does that will be committing a crime, right? That would be thievery, right?
That's denying care.
No, it's not denying. No.
If insurance companies saying you can't do that, that's denying care.
Let me tell you, Eddie, my lines are full, but let me just tell you this. Okay, I see where you're attempting to go. And that is what I see where you're attempting to go, but that's not where we're at all. We know the difference between when the insurance company is killing for the purpose of making a profit, or when it's just when a mistake is just made. Mistakes can be made. I'm not denying that at all. But what I'm denying is I'm saying when your profit motive is to deny care, which is what insurance companies do, at that point, I believe they should be guilty of murder. Okay, it's that simple. I do believe many corporations are guilty of murder. And it's not an oversimplification. It's a statement of fact. They knowingly cause people to die. And in fact, that's a business model, because if that person dies, it costs less money.
So if someone gets killed, I can come back and say, well, geez, I was not killing one person. I was saving thousands. And the radio host told me the guy's a murderer. All I did was kill a murderer.
Well, no. Again, because you're look. If you're a murderer and I called you out, I am not telling anybody to come and kill you at all. And again, that's why I said you are. Again, first of all, I am not defending Mangione. I am just saying the same scrutiny that Mangione gets is the same scrutiny Killer Corporation should get as well. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Nothing more, nothing less.
I know you're not. I'm just saying there could be easily somebody in your audience saying, I'm morally justified because the guy on the radio said he deserved it.
Remember, I never said anybody deserved anything. Think about that. You said that. I did. I never said that. I never said that.
No, I agree. But when you call someone a murderer, if I went out and killed Jeffrey Dahmer before he was able, during his career, wouldn't I be a hero?
A lot of people would think you're a hero, but you'd still go to jail.
And when you say this CEOs are murderers, if I go out and kill them, I could just say, jail. Oh, the guy on the radio said he's a murderer. I'm morally justified.
All right. Anyway, Eddie, you know what you're talking about. I got to go real quick because I got a lot of calls. So let me go ahead and handle these calls rather quickly. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Let's go to Amir. All right. Actually, I'm sorry, not Amir. Let's go to Joni.
Hello?
Yes, Joni, you're on.
Hi, good morning. Just wanted to go back to the topic of the post office. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to know why, given all the problems with it, and I do believe that we're being herded, HERDED, herded toward only doing things online. You know my stance online. I don't do business online.
I know. Oh, yeah. Right.
I avoid it. And I don't have a computer at home, a working internet at home. I don't have it on my phone. They would like, the tech industry would like to have all of our business, all of our transactions online because it's there to sell, surveil, sedate, and manipulate people and ultimately to separate everybody. That being said, we know that LaJoy has, stock, or his wife has stock in UPS or FedEx. I'm not sure which one, and maybe both. It seems like I heard there were both, but that you'd have to check me on that. And we know it's central to the voting, whether voting by mail when people can't get to the voting booths because of either a disability or I think people should have that right to be able to vote by mail because they work, and sometimes it's very hard to get to the poll. So, but Biden knew this, and why he didn't take the opportunity to remove LaJoy, who, destroyed sorting machines that made the postal service more efficient. He took out perfectly good sorting machines And, you know, he was left in place. I can't figure out why Biden would leave LaJoy in place as Postmaster General. So that's all I really have to say about that.
Thank you. Let me just say that there's some rules supposedly that you have to follow as far as who can replace LaJoy again. But again, as we can see, Donald Trump doesn't follow those rules, and Biden is usually happy to keep his hands tied behind his back with following the rules. So I mean, there are rules. He can't just remove the Joy. It's a bit more difficult. The board has to remove the
Trump
Joy.
Did?
No, the board has to remove the Joy. The FBI director, okay. Yeah. But you have to get the board to do it for you. You know, so
right.
It's not like
that would have been a priority.
Yeah, I no, it wasn't a priority. It was never a priority for them. If he wanted to get rid of the Joy, there are mechanisms that he could have instituted to do it. He did. But you're right about that, Joni.
All right. Well, have a good day.
Thank you. Now. All right, let's go to Betty. Come on in, Betty.
Hey, Alberto. You know, you didn't say the Pope was dead, okay? And on the IRS, under the Republicans, the software is involved in that too. Under the Republicans, of course, the softwares want to hit you up also. IRS, under the Republicans, they'll say, give me your paycheck for the year and get in line. And on the postal, what are we going to have to do? Go back to Pony Express? And, you know, that is the makings of what going postal for some bigwigs. Swing high and swing low. Love you.
Thank you. Love you too, Betty. All right, let's go to Amir. Come on in, Amir.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Amir. Talk to me, my brother.
So, you know, talking about who is guilty of murder, all the people that are dying in Palestine, can you say that Joe Biden and the senators and the companies that make all those bombs are all guilty of murder? And then also this,
Of course. I mean, I've spoken about the complicity of America and all of us as the taxpayers who have elected governments that effect all these damn wars around the world. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be consistent, you're going to be consistent. I always speak about what happened in Panama as well. The United States came in and killed 10,000 Panamanians to get Noriega. Yeah, that's murder too, of course. Continue, Amir, because I'm running out of time.
So, you know, you always talk about the difference between Republican and Democrat. It almost like they got us busy playing this like a football game. Who did this? Who did that? And then the game is bigger. It seems like we are all cards.
Let me just say there are two games, and you are correct. I know where you're going, Amir. I got to go, but I know where you're going. The game is two. Yeah, it's two sides. One is domestic, and one is worldwide. Okay, in the domestic game, we have to play the right Republican Democrat game for now. In the international game, it's one and all in the same. But we'll talk about, if you want to talk about that, let's do it tomorrow. I got to go. Let's go to Bruce. Good point, though, Amir. Thank you, my brother. But I got to go to Bruce and then to Brian, and I only have a minute and a half. Come on in, Bruce.
Okay, I always make it fast, and I'll make this no exception. A friend of mine told me, what has big government ever done? I said, well, they electrified America with the TVA. They built the interstate highway system, the post office, the CDC. I can go on and on. The second point I'm making is I sometimes get mad at the government. If I got some friends together and went to the federal building here and busted the front door down, broke the windows and smeared feces, I'd spend a lot of years inside a concrete box eating slimy bologna sandwiches. The justice system should not release those guys. But anyway, that's all I got. Bye.
Thank you, brother Bruce. Nice, sweet, and short. Brian, come on in.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's still foggy. I hope everyone drives safe. So, Joe Biden decides to commute the sentences of 3 Chinese dissidents, people that were in prison. One of them had 47,000 photographs on his computer. And this is justified for some reason. And then my second point is, go ahead, answer.
I don't know the story.
Okay, yeah, well, you don't know the story because CNN, MSNBC, they're not going to put it out there. They're covering up the actual facts. The other point I need to make is you thought it was quite funny when Johnny said, yeah, he wants to fly a Cessna through the bedroom of the governor of Texas. You are condoning murder.
I never said. I think you understand. I think you also understand parody, right? Funny. Hey, Brian, you understand parody. Actually, it is. If you take a listen,
it was quite funny to kill the man, and you agreed with him by your laughter.
Brian,
look it up.
Brian,
do archive.
Brian,
do archive. I just did.
Have a wonderful day, my brother. I think you're misleading as usual, but that's okay. Thank you, brother. I gotta get out of here. Let me go ahead and pass it to the studio.
Oh, you got another minute or two left if you want to try some. Do we have any more calls? No, we don't have any more calls. A lively discussion as usual. Circular arguments there with Eddie, which was always very entertaining because he kept going in circles and you're going, what are you doing, man? So anyway, we appreciate his call. As always, we appreciate all callers, including Brian, whom we don't ever agree with, but we appreciate it. Oh, Jack, what you got, man? You got anything?
I got nothing.
Jack says he got nothing. So take
I
home,
always
Egberto.
have something. Let me tell you, folks. Like I mentioned all of the times, this platform is for everybody. Unlike most platforms, right? Everybody get to say what they want to say and say it respectfully, and you will also get a respectful response. Guaranteed. But folks, remember that the rest of the program, we have other articles to discuss, is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please remember, stay engaged. Use your minds. Don't go for the rhetoric. Use your minds and think independently. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what?
Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you